Do you remember that time you walked into your history class, sighed as you sat down at your desk, and prepared yourself for 45 minutes of pure torture, only to realize that your teacher is turning on a movie? You look around to see the excited whispers of your classmates. The movie begins, but what you see is not at all what you expect. On the stage stands Hitler, preaching to cheering crowds. Trucks dumping people in extermination camps, such as Auschwitz and Treblinka. People entering the gas chambers, not knowing what is about to happen to them. You see scientists, if you can call them that, performing unimaginable and indescribably horrific experiments on human beings, all in the name of racial purity. And you can see clearly that these psychopaths are not only doing all these things, but they are proud of it. Finally, the movie ends, and you leave the class speechless, traumatized by what you have seen, with a burning question on your mind. What were these people thinking? What went through their minds as they did these horrible things? First of all, let me just say that this video is in no way justifying the despicable actions of the Nazis. Instead, it will simply explore your everyday Nazi's thoughts during the Holocaust. So the first thing one should know about fascist Germany is that it is fascist. Shocking, right? One of the main attributes of a fascist nation is propaganda galore. Essentially, by burning books that contradicted Nazi ideology or had large amount of emotion or self-thought, the Nazis almost completely diminished Germany's supply of knowledge.
Burn a book.
Back then, your average German civilian could be comparable to a gullible child who doesn't know anything, and the only source of information for the Germans was the government's propaganda. So brainwashing the Germans became a very easy task. Hundreds of thousands of government pamphlets later, and you have created sociopaths from a once decent nation. Adolf Hitler was a very charismatic man. During the early years of his reign, he would give a speech almost every month. Hitler expressed force by suppressing basic freedoms, such as free speech from the public. By doing this, he asserted that he was not the type of man you could debate with. You were either with him or against him. This ensured to the Germans that this man who stood on the pedestal before them was God. Hitler also established many programs, such as the Hitler Youth, where people were taught to hold the Nazi beliefs above anything else, even above any moral standards. An example of what children were taught in these programs was that a boy's purpose was to be a soldier for Germany, and that the purpose of girls was to give birth to healthy children to serve the Reich. This allows us to infer that the Germans were exposed to this constantly, even from an early age, and that everything in their lives revolved around Hitler's regime. Another way Hitler brainwashed the German people was by using the built-in anger he knew they already had. During the interwar period, many looked at Germans and saw monsters, people who belonged to a savage country that invaded poor neutral Belgium. Being bullied the way they were by non-Germans had a lasting psychological effect on these people, and being treated like monsters turned them into monsters, something Hitler exploited. The average German civilian, constantly hearing what this god was saying over the radio, knew only the Nazi ideology, which was to respect the pure Aryan race, for they are the saviors of the world. Fight for a greater Germany, and purge the great nation of its enemies, aka those who disagreed with Hitler tried to destabilize Germany and the Jews. Hitler rose to power in 1933, but the actual killing began in 1939, so the Germans had plenty of time to immerse themselves in Hitler's ideology before doing things that normal people consider immoral was asked of them. By the time they were forced to kill, they no longer had a moral standard to compare what they were doing to. The Reich told us to do it, so therefore it is good. So once your everyday German is tasked with actively participating in genocide, they can no longer comprehend right from wrong. This isn't to say that every German, when ordered to murder, would comply, as there were many notable examples where camp guards would flee, stand up for the prisoners, or help escapees. This, however, was rare, because Germans no longer thought the way others thought. They were no longer men, they were robots.